Hello, I'm a little bit late, but I'm here. Okay? I have something prepared for you. Every time I come back and run this, I try to do things a little bit differently, and I wanted to do the same thing again today. I wanted to have something that wasn't something I've done before, so that's why it took me just a couple of minutes to get moving. But it's all right, I'm now here, I'm ready to go, and we're going to have, I'm sure, a lot of fun. So I'll do my very best to make it as entertaining as possible. But given that, I'm also going to put up a poll, and feel free to take part in that poll if you want to. If it's not your thing, that's all right. There's always an option to sort of just say that you're here, and you can have your feedback that way. So yeah, that's the intention. Um, this will consist of a slideshow. I usually run a slideshow for this program. I also usually have a creation or building aspect to everything that I do here on my channel, and I'm going to be doing the same thing again. So for those of you who are hoping for that, you can be guaranteed it will in fact happen, because it will. So I noticed that the sound is all wacky again, so obviously somebody is fiddling around, I suspect, at YouTube's end. Grab some food, some drink, make sure you're comfortable. We're going to get started in a second, and I also noticed that YouTube is a little bit slow off the mark, so that's not a good thing, but we'll do our best. We'll do our best and see if we can make this a good experience. Okay, enough said. It is time to crack on. Let us get on with the task at hand. Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about tabletop role-playing games. And this is all about, would you believe it, the starting hub of your adventure. The thing you do in between. Or is it? Well, actually it is. But we're going to cover that a little bit later. First of all, we're going to go through how to build your adventure. But the idea being that we will return and talk about how the importance of the adventure hub, where your player characters can sort of basically make their home. We're going to talk about that a lot today, okay? But let's get on with Game Master preparation. Lesson 1, adventure building. Let's do the basics first. Okay. So the overview for today is types of adventures, okay, types of quests that you can give in your adventures, the basic adventure building structure. I'm going to do some formatting for you as well, so we're going to have some formatting layout for you, miscellaneous recommendations, and we're going to have the adventure hub today, something a little bit different, something to to sort of make it feel like you're getting something new each time. Objectives. Explain how to build your adventure for your tabletop role-playing game. Demonstrate that process in a couple of days. We're actually we build an adventure on this channel every single week, and in a couple of days we'll do another adventure, just like we always do. But today we're going to look more at the components of it, and I want you to be part of that process so you can practice using your skills, your brain, your imagination. So types of adventures, let's start at the very beginning and break it down from there. When it comes to types of adventures, there are really 3 different types of adventures that can also be broken up into other subsets. The first one is your sandbox or hex crawl, and then you have your linear adventure, and then you have your point crawl adventure. Okay, they all have a purpose. None of these are bad or good. Okay, they're just tools. That's all they are. They each have a purpose. So the sandbox or the hex crawl adventure, and I feel like they are essentially the same sort of thing. This is where your characters start at a set location. You've got a set location. Maybe it's your adventuring hub. But they can venture out and go to any new place they want to. They want to go and explore, they can. They can go north, they can go south, they can go east and west, they can go anything in between. Heck, they might even decide to just stay where they are. That's always possible too. The linear adventure is where the characters start at your beginning location, maybe your adventure hub, and they follow a set path to a climax in the story, and it has a very strong plot line. Now, I know a lot of people think, okay, I like that because I want plot and I want story, but you can also have plot and story in a sandbox and hex crawl adventure. The only difference is that you do not write the plot or the story, and you do not need to do too much. You just need a goal. The players of the characters create the plot, not the game master and not the adventure itself. It's a very different way of thinking. Then you have the point crawl adventure, which is built with meaningful adventure locations that are connected by multiple in-world pathways. It's like a branching tree. Usually it starts with one location and branches out, and each time you make a choice, you might have anywhere from 2 to 3 to 4 or even 5 choices that you can make. So it's not quite the sandbox. It can be a bit more restrictive, but there are branches that you can take. Now, most adventures really are a combination of all of this. The really good ones tend to be a combination of the 3 basics, which is your sandbox, your linear adventure, and your point crawl adventure. And quite often you'll notice that published adventures nowadays tend to have a linear focus or a point crawl focus, but within that, each place that you go to, each thing that happens has its own little sandbox, a little mini sandbox within each step along the way. Okay. All right. Then we would break it down into what are called location-based adventures and then event-based adventures. You've probably heard about this before. Now, the location-based adventure, they don't have a set plot or events that take place in particular, and they don't have an order to them. There's none of this plot and event stuff going on generally. The location-based adventure is where the environment has a villain or a baddie or a monster, a potential conflict or threat that the player characters get to interact with in any way they like. It is normal practice to have a single overall goal for the location-based adventure. This is a very older style of writing adventures. It's very successful because it understands that players will mess up any adventure, and you can't mess up a location-based adventure other than they decide to leave, which can happen. But that's all right. You go grab another location-based adventure wherever they decide to go to. Now, you do have potential to have plot here, but you, as I've said before, with a location-based adventure, the difference is that the adventure, the pre-made adventure, doesn't get to set out what that plot is, and neither does the game master. What creates the plot are the player characters interacting with the location. That is how the plot is developed. So it's not a plotless adventure, it is just not set out. Okay, next, event-based adventures are often set out in a flow chart or branching options from a starting point. There's usually a set starting point and you go from there. Now, event-based adventures have a strong underlying plot with additional subplots sometimes. Not always, but sometimes they do. The time frames for an event-based adventure are extremely important. They have to be mapped out for various events that will occur, because what will happen is these events are going to take place no matter what the player characters do, and they may not be in the right location at the right time to actually interact with them or stop them or even assist with that process. So they still have to take place, and so nothing's going to stop. Whatever the players do, these events tend to always take place. It's a very, very complicated way to deal with an adventure, and it's easy for the players to wreck it, to literally just break that kind of adventure apart. You can in fact lay an event-based adventure or a very basic structure of event-based adventures over the top of a location-based adventure, but it's hard to do it the other way around. It's very hard to have an event-based adventure and lay over a location-based adventure as well. Okay, you really can only do it one way effectively. But those are the different ways that you can look at adventures and the different types. Now that you've got that down, let's deal with the different types of quests that you can put them on. They're going to have a goal, a mission, a quest, a thing that they have to do. I'm going to break this up into essentially what I consider to be the 8 different types. To be fair, there's probably 9, okay? But I've kind of included 2 into one, but I'll talk about that in a second. The fetch quest. This is when the characters have to go and get something from another place that is potentially a long distance away. And whatever they're going to get is not for them, it's for somebody else. You are fetching the ball, like the dog, okay? Your master, as we said, go get the ball, you go get the ball, players go get the ball, bring it back. Now, a good example of this is Avengers Endgame, where the main characters have to collect up all these infinity stones from different time zones, bring it back together, combine it with the gauntlet so that they can snap everybody back into existence. Now, there is some personal motivation for the characters, yes, but ultimately they're doing it for somebody else, okay? Not necessarily for themselves. So that is the fetch quest. Next, we have the delivery quest. The delivery quest is exactly what it sounds like. You are a postman. The characters are in possession of an object, a person, a piece of information, and they must deliver it to a specific location, okay? You are the postman. And a good example of this is, in fact, the postman, but also the Lord of the Rings, where Frodo and Sam have to take the ring to Mount Doom, and that's your delivery quest, Lord of the Rings. The next one is the protection quest, where you have the player characters escorting a person or people safely to a secondary location, potentially a long way off, okay? Or they may simply have to protect a thing or a person or people in the current location. It can be structured a lot of different ways. And a good example of this is The Bodyguard with Kevin Costner, who's trying to protect a famous singer. You can also have The Seven Samurai, where they are at a particular location. This village is under attack, and they have to protect the villagers from the bandits who are going to come and raid and take their food. That's basically your protection quest. The next one is kind of like two combined. I've combined it for a number of reasons. One, it makes it easier. Destroy quests and the kill quest. This is when the characters are required to go on, say, a creature or monster hunt, vanquish a main villain or kill them, break an object or something in the environment, okay? So destroying usually means you have to destroy an object or some sort of thing in the environment, okay? So destruction of something. Maybe it's even an organization, maybe it's a city location. Could be anything, but destroy. Kill quests usually focus on monsters, creatures, people, or some sort of antagonist who is a living being, okay? Good example of this is actually Star Wars, where Luke and Han and Leia are going to go, and Princess Leia are going to go and destroy the Death Star. Blow it up. Bam. Blow that up. Or having to kill Darth Vader or the Emperor before they can get up to their mischief. Like, they're a major threat, so you have to take them out. That's your destroy and kill quest. Next, investigation quests. A lot more nuance with this, a lot harder to actually implement. This is where the characters have to go and find new information, something they don't already know. They have to investigate a mystery. They have to solve a crime. They have to solve a problem. And a really good example of this kind of thing is really the Sherlock Holmes stories, where Dr. Watson and Sherlock Holmes are given a problem or a crime and they have to solve that crime. It might be a murder, it might be something else. It could be all sorts of things. And if you're going to use the investigation quest, please remember you have to drop a lot of clues along the way, because players that are running a character won't always pick up or find every single clue or understand the significance of every single clue. I know out there, the Alexandrian has talked about the 3 clue method, where you provide 3 clues for everything that they need to know, and you drop it around in your adventure, scattering it like breadcrumbs, so that they hopefully will get the information that they need. So for every piece of information, there's at least 3 clues somewhere. Okay. You might need 3, might not be enough. You might need more. Depends on your group. Next, negotiation quests. These require the characters to sort of deceive or persuade somebody. It can involve diplomacy or subterfuge or extortion. It might be some sort of trade taking place. There's all sorts of things that can be taking place. It's one of those things where you're probably going to be doing less combat and a lot more talking. And a good example of this is Star Trek, where you have to negotiate with aliens on different worlds. You have to negotiate with individuals within your own world. So yes, negotiation Star Trek is a good example of this, where you don't just shoot everybody. Okay. Next, Number 7 is the survival quest, where you force the characters into a dangerous situation that they have to get out of. It might be a natural disaster. They might be being hunted by something or someone. They might have an army on a warpath after them. They might be in prison and they have to survive there. Now, the great thing about the survival quest is if you wanted to get the player characters involved, they don't have a choice. They have been forced into this situation. They cannot just decide to sit there and do nothing. They have to do something, okay? Because they cannot get away. They can't decide, I'm going to just open the door and leave. It's not going to work that way. Whatever the survival quest is, quite often requires them to deal with stuff. Now, good examples of this is the Alien movie and the Terminator. So the Alien movie is where you're trapped on a ship and an alien is trying to kill everybody, and so you have to survive the alien. You obviously will probably have to do the kill quest as well, which is kill the alien, but it's more about surviving, being the last one standing in many respects. The Terminator, where Sarah Connor and Reese are trying to escape the Terminator, is trying to kill Sarah. This is all about survival, okay? And the premise behind the Terminator is even better in that the thing that they're dealing with can't be killed. They set it up as you cannot defeat this thing. You cannot kill it. You can only run and survive. And that could be carried on for quite some time. So it's a good example in this case. The last one is the attainment quest, which looks a lot like something like the fetch quest, but it's not, okay? It's where the characters have to seek out a treasure, like an object. It might be a person. It might be a thing. It might include something like political power, a political position, a piece of land they have to gain access to. It might be castles, it might be fortresses, it might be a town, could be all sorts of things. There's all sorts of things. Now, the difference is here, is the attainment quest, whatever the characters are going to get, they're going to get it for themselves. It's not for somebody else, it's for them, okay? And so it can be a much more varied than the fetch quest. And good examples of this is Moana and Finding Nemo, where Moana has to go and find this special stone, put it somewhere, and save her island from destruction, essentially, okay? Or Finding Nemo, where Daddy Fish has to go and find little kitty fish, and yeah, you're doing it for yourself in many respects. You could argue that Moana is doing it for others as well. That's true, but it's also very much for herself. Okay, so let's have a look at the basic structure of building your adventure and how that might look. I want to make it clear, none of this is for people who are trying to publish formally an adventure, okay? I don't give advice on publishing adventures formally because I haven't done that, okay? All I can give you is how you would do it for your home group in your own adventures where you're really only running it from yourself, okay? So the best approach that I think there is out there in terms of writing your own adventures is not my idea, okay? It's somebody else's idea. It was presented by Chris Perkins many years ago, and this is not how he writes an adventure. A published adventure is not written like this by Chris. Chris writes them very differently. His own adventure notes for the games that he runs consist of a single piece of A4 paper. That's it. With 7 headings, with bullet points. That's it. That's all we're dealing with. And you might have a map as well, but essentially it's broken down into 1, the adventure title. If you're starting out, you might have an adventure title or a designation to differentiate this from the last session notes in some way, okay? So you're not getting mixed up. There might be session notes 1, session notes 2. It might have an adventure title. Who knows? Next, you have number 2, which is the adventure hook or the goal. And if you don't have an adventure hook, goal, quest, or mission, taking up maybe 3 or 4 sentences that you can present, then you have at least the adventure recap from last time. Whatever happened last time is part of this. Okay? So that's another way of breaking it up and structuring it. Now, I could talk about lots of books that you could go and access. I've done that so many times before, and I don't have no intention of doing it again today. If you want to ask me about that sort of stuff, I will do that later. Next, list the player characters. The most important individuals in your adventure are the people playing the main characters by the players. So things that you need to know. Things like their name, their character name, their class, their race, if they have a flaw, if that's important. Maybe they have a goal. Break it all down, make it one sentence, okay? Keep it short and simple. You do not need to use filler words. Remember, the idea of doing this is to ensure that when you say to Richard, what's the name of your character? You don't have to ask that question anymore, okay? If you forget, it's written down in front of you. This reminds the Dungeon Master who is important, okay? Number 4 is create some adventure locations. I would say between 4 and 5 is probably good enough. 5 total, okay? What would you need? Maybe a town, a city, a tavern, maybe a village, one of those things. And often this is the starting hub or starting location for your adventure. And we're going to talk more about that today. What you need for your location. Well, what information do you think you need? You need the name of the location and the basic description. That's one sentence and you're done, okay? It could be a dungeon. It might be a planar region. It might be an urban area. It might be a section of water or the ocean. It might be part of the wilderness. It could be all sorts of different things. And I recommend using pre-made maps for locations. Like, real historical locations are really great for inspiration. So that's why I had mentioned that even though we're writing out our adventure on one A4 page, there's probably going to be another page which is your map, which is your visual guide as to what's going on, okay? Next, number 5 is make a list of 5 non-player characters, at least 5, okay? You give them a name, an appearance, a personality, and a motivation. And you can usually break this down into 3 sentences. Name and appearance is 1 sentence. Personality trait, 1 idea. Don't give yourself too much. 1 sentence. And their motivation. And that's essentially the gist of what you require. You don't really need anything else, okay? It's nice to have more, but you don't have to have it. So there are different types of non-player characters that you will need. You're probably going to need a villain, so make sure you have your villain. You might well need a patron or a quest giver, okay? Now the patron is the individual who gives ongoing quests, and the quest giver is usually a one-off individual, okay? You might have a victim in your adventure that you need to include. You might have a helper. If you find that your players are going off track and you need to get them back on track, this is the NPC you've created to give them a clue or to help them if they can't do it themselves. And there's the helper and the mentor. Now the helper is usually a one-off. You use it once and then it's done. The mentor will probably reoccur in multiple adventures as you play through a campaign, if you're running a campaign. And everything else, all the other non-player characters that you don't use out of the 5, they're extras. They are the people in the shops, the people on the streets, the individuals that they come across that don't have those specific purposes. Non-player characters are a tool. They are a tool for driving your players in the right direction and putting problems in front of them, okay? That's their key purpose with a non-player character, is to present a problem or help solve a problem. It's really, really simple. There are lots of really good resources for this too, if you are looking, okay? I highly recommend just going and using something like Rory's Story Cubes to inspire you, or just the Player's Handbook. For 5e is great. It's got a whole lot of backgrounds. I think that those pages are awesome for just rolling up NPCs really quickly if you don't want to try and figure it all out yourself. Okay. The next one, number 6, we need to create some different encounters. I would say about 6 to get you through a session, depending on how long your session is. If your session is quite long and you play for 8 hours, you might need a bit more. But if you're only playing for maybe 2 or 3 hours, you probably only need about 6 encounters. You may not even use all of those. That's just to make sure you've got enough to do, okay? And you'll know more about your own personal group and how fast they move and how fast they get through things, so maybe you'll need to adjust that. So don't bother with making up random encounters. Okay, random encounters are easy to do, okay? That's not the important stuff. And I'm not detracting from the use of random encounters. I believe there is a place for them. But often random encounters devolve into just, let's fight a monster, okay? So if that's all you're doing with your random encounters, why would you bother? You can just open a monster book and plant your finger on a page, and that's the monster they find. if they have to have a random encounter and it's just going to be a fight. Okay, what I do recommend is having smaller tables of wandering monsters that make sense for your locations and your adventure. Okay, if it would make sense to do so. All right, sometimes you won't have wandering monsters in your adventure. It wouldn't make sense. But if the players are going to rest, the purpose of wandering monster tables is make them small. You know, between 3 and 6 options is probably all you need with a wandering monster table. That's a roll of 6-sided dice to determine what you get. And frankly, all they do, wandering monsters, are to stop players resting in stupid locations that are not safe. That's all the wandering monster is designed to do. Okay, but it does help make it look like your environment for your adventure is dynamic and that things are moving around as well. Okay, all right, cool. Focus the encounters on combat encounters. So yes, combat is good. Combat is important. Players are probably going to want that. Also, though, you need to have social interactions. What non-player characters or monsters will they talk to? Were they going to get information? Or are they going to get the wrong information? Whatever it might be. So there's going to be a communication. Remember, it's a tabletop role-playing game you're dealing with here. That means communication, dialogue. Exploration is a huge aspect of any tabletop role-playing game, particularly Dungeons and Dragons. Traps. You're going to need traps, things they have to avoid or find or disarm. Puzzles to solve. They don't have to be really complicated. They might be just lock and key puzzles. That's fine. That's all right. You might have adventure challenges or skill challenges of some kind. These are things where you have an action scene that takes place. And instead of having to roll to hit or making attack rolls of some kind, no, you're dealing with a different dice roll or a different mechanic in some way. Maybe it's casting spells or whatever to solve a problem, because it's more of a dynamic environmental situation, something that isn't covered by just normally running combat. Okay, the next and last thing, number 7, is setting up rewards for the completion of the adventure, such as character advancement, giving them out magic items if they are successfully able to find them, or just giving them out because that's part of the reward for completing a task. Political power if they want it. Treasure, that might not just be money. Treasure can consist of all sorts of things. It might just be a non-player character relationship. These are very important as well. Okay, next, formatting. Now, with each location, you do not have to do something like this. This is a lot of additional information and a lot of work. And the only reason I'm covering this is because most pre-made adventures, unless it's OSR adventures, do not lay out their adventures like this. Instead, what you normally get with any kind of location information, and this is more around pre-made adventures and publishing than anything else, but I'm not really saying this is for publishing, okay, as I said. Most pre-made adventures have a location name, I have a box text for describing what's there, and then a wall of text where you have to find all this information. So don't do that to yourself, okay? Because, of course, when you're dealing with a pre-made adventure, you wind up having to go through and make your own notes and bullet point everything. So just bullet point and bold everything yourself, okay? The key things you need to have for a location, and you don't have to have all of these, you might only have a few of these things, is your description. It doesn't have to be in a box text, could be just bullet point, okay? Description of what the player characters can see, hear, and smell in broad brush strokes. Not in high detail, they have to explore to give them more information, okay? That's just the basic overview. Next, are there creatures and monsters? Put that in bold and bullet point. What is the monster? What is that monster doing? How does the monster respond to the player characters when they show up? Those are your key things you will need, okay? If you're going to have a trap, you can bold, bullet point this little thing. What is the trap, okay? Is it a mechanical trap? Is it a magic trap? What is the trap trigger? What actually trips that thing? Is it easy or hard to find? What is the effect of the trap if it is triggered? These things are part of the trap. So put that all in one little place. Don't scatter it everywhere, okay? Make it easy to find. Next, bold and bullet point. Puzzle. Lock and key puzzle. What is the puzzle made up of? Very simple. What do you need to solve the puzzle? And what is the solution? Okay? Now, I'm not going to go into puzzles a lot because that's not my area of expertise. My buddy Wally does that a lot better than I do, but that's what I should suggest to you. Non-player character information, the NPC. We talked about that before. We've already covered that, so we don't need to do that again, okay? But if you're going to put an NPC in a particular location, make sure you put them in the location where they're going to show up. Yep, so you can find it easily. Next, every location might have treasure, or it might not. Bold and bullet point. What is it? Is it a magic item? Where do you find it? Okay, where is it hidden? Is there weapons, armor, equipment, mundane items, gold, coins, gems, junk? Are you going to give out junk? Like, giving out junk is not a bad thing. Junk just means you're filling up their inventory. You have no idea what your players will do with junk. I never do. Why would you? So it's not a waste of your time to do so, okay? So those are the sorts of things that each location might have information on. And you won't be including all of this. That would be ridiculous. Try to keep it reasonably under control, okay? Those are sort of the 6 things that you would have in a location that you have to think about. Okay, now that that's done, we covered the stuff that I sort of have talked about in the past, but this one is a little bit new, a bit newer than it used to be anyway. I want to talk about miscellaneous recommendations for you, okay? Please don't spend all your time on developing one concept for your adventure and run out of time to run your adventure. I want you to run your adventure, so if you get stuck, stop and move on. Don't sweat the creative ideas in your adventure. You do not need to be a master storyteller to do this, okay? You don't know what the people at your table will like or dislike. You will only find out by running the adventure. So put it together, run it, and then decide if you need to adjust it. If you decide to run it again. If you decide not to run it again, take on board whatever the feedback you got from that adventure. And if you want to do a better job, I'm sure you will be able to. The more you do this, this is a skill that is not just absorbed into your skin or your brain. You actually have to do it. That means you have to create adventures for players to go through, okay, and to interact with. If you do not create them, you do not get better at doing them. It's very, very simple, which is why we cover this every single week. We make an adventure on my channel every single week for that very purpose and reason. Okay, but we are done. That is the gist of my slideshow for today, and we're going to be dealing with the Adventure Hub, the thing you use between adventures or your starting location. It kind of fits in the same way. But I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who's been watching and listening. I want to thank all of my patrons who support me on Patreon. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, I think I'm ready. All right, that took me a little while to get through. Every time I rebuild this thing, it gets a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And I mean, sometimes that's a good thing and sometimes that is a bad thing. Let's get real. I mean, it's not always going to be a good thing. But anyway, so we covered all the things that I think we needed to cover, and hopefully that is helpful to you. And I'm just going to close up a few windows because we are going to be getting into our next task. And depending on how many, now there's 10 of you here now, I'm going to go over essentially what I want to do. The volume is very low. Yeah, so the volume actually got fixed, and then somehow the interaction and software has changed everything, and it's messed everything up again. And I don't know why. It's got to do with either YouTube. I suspect YouTube is probably playing around with the levels, or it's OBS. Or, I mean, I just don't understand what's going on, frankly. Could be updates on Windows. There's probably a lot of stuff going on here. So if I crank up the volume at my end, when they fix their problem, then I'm going to have to readjust my sound at my end. And that's quite a bit of a mission. So I do apologize. Do your best to crank up the volume at your end so that you can hear what's going on. This is not the first time this problem has taken place on YouTube. We've had this happen many, many times. Okay, so now that you're here, I'm going to talk about very quickly in roughly, I don't know what we would call it, 2 minutes. Let's make it 2 minutes. I'll give myself 2 minutes to talk about adventure hubs, okay? Thank you. Hi, how's it going, Fred Huber and Big Kid? So, Adventure Hubs, 2 minutes, starting from, where am I? Starting from now. So, 20 adventure location hubs. This is something where you start your adventure with your player characters, or they return here as well for the next adventure. It's something we're going to use over and over again. And things like the tavern, usually used at the beginning of the character's advancement, like the very beginning character, the baby ones. You could have a castle that they have, or maybe it's a village or a town or a city. Could be a sailing ship that they're on board, might be a space station, could be a spaceship. You don't have to have a sailing ship, you can have a spaceship. What about a submarine that travels underwater? It could be an island. They have their own island, the secret island, the phantom island. It could be a hidden monastery, okay, located in the high mountains where all sorts of strange ancient martial arts and secret knowledge is kept. It might be a sky fortress, literally a castle on a cloud floating around by magical means that can only be accessed if you can fly, have a flying creature, have a powerful wizard, or some sort of artifact. You could have an underground bunker, a fortified hidden bunker deep in the earth, equipped with advanced technology and survival supplies of some kind. You could have a forest enclave. Now, you could have this as a normal village, or you could stick this thing in the trees. Why not? It might be an enchanted forest. It might be an enclave for druids and rangers that protect the natural world, and you go back to this place every single time. It could be a pirate cove. There's a little bay or hidden place where it's a secret and bustling location, hidden, but only smugglers and pirates, or maybe your pirates, know about it. Located in a cove, a very small cove that has access to the open sea. You could have an arcane academy, a prestigious school for mages, scholars, wizards, sorcerers, where characters can learn new spells, conduct research, seek arcane advice. And generally, it's the thing that you would. It's a school. It's basically like a school, isn't it? Or an academy, or something like that. Secret society. You have the spaceport. So the bustling hub for interstellar travel, where spaceships travel across the galaxy, dock here for repairs, trade, refueling, things like that. You could have a secret cave like Batman's cave, where you go back and you have all your gear there and all your supplies, and you don't have to worry about anybody coming and visiting you and trying to kill you or take your stuff, because nobody knows where it is. The secret cave. You could have a manor, a house, a big, large manor house on the outskirts of a town or a village or a city, or even a dark forest. Put it anywhere you like. Heck, maybe it's in an extra-dimensional location. You have the mystical temple, an ancient sacred temple built on the mountainside where priests and religious individuals are sort of guardians of the forgotten gods, or the gods that reside in your world. So the mystical temple. And then lastly, the nomadic caravan, which is like the old Western caravan line. So the wagons go west, go east, go north, go wherever. But it's a mobile hub that constantly moves around sort of vast plains, deserts, made up of tents, wagons, and a diverse group of travelers and merchants. Or maybe it's just made up of your individuals and your little entourage of NPCs that you've established. Those are what I would say are the starting locations and the hubs that you return to for any kind of adventure. This is a tool for the players, but also for the game master. Okay, that was my contribution for today. Your contribution today is to tell me that I have not covered everything that I need to, or that I need to fill in the gaps, or you're going to fill in the gaps, because I've done enough. My general feeling is I've done enough today. I'm going to share this with you. I have a document. This document is going to be available on Patreon, and I will finish it off. But first of all, let's go to chat. Let's deal with that. Okay. I do stages that correlate to the plot. They can change depending on the players, but every location is kind of a hub with possible storylines. Fair enough. So you've got multiple hubs taking place here. Yep. Absolutely. Big Kid is a moderator and a patron, by the way. Overboard. Hello, Joe. He's also a moderator. Nice to have you. Fred Huber, patron as well. What do you got here, Fred? When the players don't take any plot hooks, destroy the building they are in, then they have to do something. Yes, that's true. that's true. Yep. Adventure title, goal in one. Stop the coin mimics. Oh God, are we going back to that? You guys are really focusing on that one today, aren't you? Geez, it was last week, this week, the week before that. Oh, okay. I remember this reminds me of the time when you guys wanted to put mushrooms in everything. One of the things I really like about BeckMe, this is Pale Rider, Gazettas, is that they have multiple adventure hooks based on level. And I think that's important. One of the things you'll be noticing when we write adventures on this channel is we have multiple adventure hooks. Usually I try to make sure they are structured in such a way that they are connected to a particular individual in your party so that we drag them in, okay? Rather than, oh, you're doing this for money. No. We make it much more personal. I like the village, the town bulletin board. You can. I don't like the town bulletin board myself that much, but you can do something like that. A central location to find ads for adventures that need to be solved. Yeah, fair enough. Wanted posters. Wanted posters are good because you don't have to do that, you know. When we say the adventure bulletin board, really it's probably the jailhouse that has the bulletin board of people who are wanted. Cats that are going missing, Granny's cat's gone missing, stuff for sale, help wanted posters. Okay, all right. Yeah, this is the problem. A lot of people assume that random encounters are random, and they're really not that random at all. They are very much not a random thing. And I think a few people misunderstand that concept. Yeah, you do. You have to decide when it's appropriate to stick it somewhere. Sometimes it doesn't matter, sometimes it does. Ravenlaw, hello Ravenlaw, how are you? Okay, hubs, taverns, bulletin boards, law enforcement office, King's message office, town crier. Okay, all right. So let's put this in here. I'll get you going, and I'm going to go back to my document and start doing some typing. We're going to do this fairly quickly. What are some adventure hubs that the player characters can use? Bum bum bum. There we go. All right. There's my question. Get comfortable. And let's go into our document here. If I can find it, make sure I pick up the right thing. Okay. All right. So I've got a bunch of things here, but not finished. Not finished. Okay. Tavern, castle, village, city, village or town. I think that's what we want to put in here. We want to put in a bit more stuff. We'll give you a breakdown of this, I guess. And, oh, we're going to get with spaceship. If you're doing a sci-fi setting, maybe you'll have a spaceship. Maybe if you're not doing a sci-fi setting, you'll still have a spaceship. I don't know. There's always a place for everything. It depends on what you're doing. Your choice, not mine. Okay, I'm going to have a lozenge, drink some water. Fred Huber has already started, and I am going to try to fill out some of these so there's a little bit more going on here. So, let's go here with tavern. Define tavern for me. Okay, an inn or a pub. A tavern is an inn or a pub. Yeah, pretty much. And paste. An inn or pub for purchasing drinks, socializing, and a place to sleep. Pretty simple. Okay. Now, the pub could be something that they have purchased or something that somebody else owns. And of course, as your players progress, if they like the idea of the tavern, they'll buy their own tavern. An inn or pub for purchasing drinks, socializing, purchasing drinks, food, socializing, and a place to sleep. Pretty simple, nice and easy. Next, let's go with castle. We dealt with castles before. And yeah, so let's grab this. Bum, 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 and we'll drop this in. Pow. Okay. A large building, forget about this, large fortified. Fortified building, forget about this bit here. That protects against attacks with thick walls, battlements, towers, and moat. Now keep on the borderlands. Like most adventures, a lot of people start in the tavern. That's your starting point. That's your hub. You go back and forth from the hub, the tavern. But at Keep on the Borderlands, the hub was not the tavern. It was actually a castle. Keep on the Borderlands, keep as in castle, makes sense, right? And so this is a good way to deal with that too. Is like just have the castle be the thing that you keep going back and forth to. Right, so village. Let's define our village. And our village is a group of houses, da da da. Yeah, we've got this. Good. It's a nice little collection of information. And of course, you can have a tavern in a village, but maybe the village is the most important thing. A group of houses and associated buildings. Forget about the larger than a hamlet, smaller than a town. That's all. That's all it is. There's a group of houses and associated buildings. Are they situated? Yes, they are. Situated town. Situated in a rural area. There we go. That's pretty clear. Nice and easy. Okay, let's do city. City's a little bit different. There is a difference between a village and a town, by the way, but I'm not going to worry about it. And basically, a city is a large town. I'm kind of pulling these things together, like I'm incorporating together. A large town with many different buildings and a significant population. Okay, I've said before, villages, towns, and cities are broken up to villages small enough that it doesn't have a green, a market green, whereas a town got a permit, usually it's a bit bigger than a village, got a permit, it's allowed to have a green area for holding a marketplace. A city has got that permission to have a marketplace, you know, a green or a location for holding a market. But the additional thing is they have a significant temple or church of some kind, usually like a cathedral or something. That's sort of the difference. Sailing ship. Let's keep going. Sailing ship, define. Pretty simple. We know what a sailing ship is, so it's going to be a very short one, that one. It's usually a wooden. A wooden ship, wooden hull with Canvas sales that drive it with wind power. Okay, I think we've got our sailing ship nailed down. I think my definition is better. Next, space station. Space station. Space station. Give me a space station. And here it is. This is exactly what we're after. Here we go. A large artificial satellite. A large artificial satellite used as a long-term base for operations in space. Get rid of the manned thing. It really doesn't mean anything. Okay, spaceship. Aha. Spaceship. No. Okay, got it. I think my mouse is dying. My voice is too. A spacecraft designed to travel an outer space controlled by a crew. Outer space controlled by a crew. Yep, there we go. Submarine. Captain Nemo. Submarine. Pardon me. Submarine. No, it's not a sandwich, but it would be funny if they did have an adventure hub that was an American sandwich. It would be quite amusing. A streamlined torpedoes. Okay, we've got to go do this here. Let's put this in here. Submarine. We have island. I've got a couple other things here we're going to put in, but we're getting through this. I'm sure the list in the chat is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. A streamlined hull designed to operate completely submerged in the sea. That's good enough. All the other things are nice, but let's keep it simple. Keep it simple, people. Keep it simple. Do I want to? See, long periods equipped with. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we'll leave that. That's fine. Cool. Island. Define our island for us. Island in the sun. And there we go. A small piece of land, surrounded by water or the ocean. Okay, we have our other options here. We've got them. The secret cave. We have to do our secret cave. Define a secret cave. Okay, what is the meaning of secret cave? Well, that's a good point. A secret cave. A hidden, mysterious cavern that is shrouded in secrecy and wonder. That's... Really? That's our definition. What does it mean? What is the definition of cave? Let's just do this. I think that's going to help us a lot more. These are all things that are pretty obvious, should be pretty obvious. I'm putting in the definitions and so forth. So it's abundantly clear what you're dealing with. A natural chamber or series of chambers in the earth. A hill or cliff that is hidden. Hiding, hidden, hidden, hidden. Hidden. Why am I hidden? It is hidden. Okay. Hidden. Okay. Okay, so we got our, there's 20 locations. But knowing Fred Hoover and a lot of people in the chat, I'm sure they will have come up with more than 20 and things that I have not thought of. So let's go over there, shall we? Okay, an enchanted pool with some entity gives messages. Yep, could be a pool of water. Yeah. The dreams of the party warlock. What I am confused by what that means. But anyway, a watchtower. Yep, basically a watchtower is like a fortified location. Yep, ruins granted by a ruler. Taverns, a farmstead. I was actually going to say a farmstead would be a pretty good one as well. Like every western had sort of like a farmstead of some kind. So a farmstead is absolutely not a bad idea at all. Let's just do farmstead. I don't know if I'm going to write anything about that today. I'm just going to grab your watchtower. Yeah, it could be a watchtower rather than like a castle or something, or a fortress. They're pretty much the same thing, right? But a watchtower might be a little bit different. Maybe they have a watchtower. Do all the adventuring from there. Keep on the Borderlands had a watchtower. Well, it had a sort of like a castle, a wizard tower, which I suppose was a watchtower. We've got ship. We've got plenty. We've got 2 different types of ships, so we're all kind of covered. We've got the pub stuff. Yes. A government building where the PCs are sent to be the king's troubleshooters. Yes, it might be. It might be a government building. Yep, absolutely, could be that. Pale Rider. We'll just grab this here and drop that in. Government building. What else have we got here? A grain mill. Yeah, I suppose it could be a grain mill. A monastery, church. We've got a monastery already, so that's all cool. A lair of the group's patron, noble. Basically, it's a cave, secret cave. Pardon me. The Wheel of Pain. What? I don't understand. What's going on with the Wheel of Pain? Are we torturing people already? A grain mill. The grain mill. The grain mill. Okay, what else we got here? Joy communicating with nature. Yeah, we've got something for that already. Covered that one. Wheel of Pain, a pocket dimension of an oracle. Yep, pocket dimensions, always fun. And that could be any kind of pocket dimension, so I'm just going to put down pocket dimension. Doctor Who's TARDIS is basically a mobile pocket dimension in many respects. It's just tied to a very simple structure, but it's essentially a pocket dimension that can go anywhere. The pocket dimension. What else have you got here? Restaurants. Hello, Thomas. How are you? Yes, you could have a restaurant. Somebody wants to have a restaurant at their returning place where they go and feed themselves. They could have a restaurant. In between adventures, we go and we kill the monsters that are our adventures, and then we come back and we eat them. I can see more than a few players quite happy to go killing monsters and eating them after they come back to their restaurant. Submarine. Yes. Front business, organised crime, family. I'm looking for some advice, please. Okay, all right, here we go, Thomas. My adventurers keep losing their horses to hazards. Okay, all right. They have been lightning bolted by ambushing cultists left on the far side of a rickety rope bridge. Dear, the last night sent them fleeing from a rapidly approaching tornado. All the characters hid in a rope trick. How do I keep them alive when it makes sense for them to die? Thomas, you are asking the what can I only describe as a really common problem. Like, I know exactly what you're talking about here. Okay? And you have derailed my live stream, but I'm going to allow you to derail it because it is a funny problem that always seems to come up for various reasons. If the players don't use mounts to try to gain benefits in combat, they don't target the mounts. That's not the only problem. Narratively, there's always a problem with the horses or the mounts. There's always something that happens. So, to be fair, what I'm going to do is, what I should do is I should sit down and I should write up how to deal with mounts someday. But I'm going to do it off the cuff right now to give you sort of an idea of where my head is at with this, because it's a very interesting question. Okay. So, hashtag ending adventure hub discussion. We're just stopping it there. Now we're going to deal with Thomas's problem. Hashtag starting with new discussion. Okay. New discussion. Where we get discussion. This discussion. New discussion. How do you keep the the parties mounts alive? That is our question. Now, there are plenty of people in here who know how to do this. Okay, they've dealt with it more than a few times. So I suspect that you're going to get a lot of answers from Fred Huber and a variety of other people in here. That's good. I want that to happen. Okay, but let's deal with that as our new discussion. Yeah, I think they just get free success on things like and ignore the hazard for them. Maybe best. I don't want them to regret taking traveling mounts around because they aren't as resilient. There's so many problems with this, right? So the first thing is there's always going to be a situation that crops up where something like this will become an issue. So no matter what advice we give you, you will always find there is another circumstance where the mounts die or the mounts run away. Mounts running away makes sense. The mounts get eaten. The mounts disappear. Like they just magically get puffed away. There's so many things that can happen. And I've had this happen to me many, many, many times. It is hugely frustrating as a player. It's actually more frustrating as a dungeon master or game master that the mounts never seem to be able to do it. They always wind up in so much trouble. If you've ever played The Red Hand of Doom, which is a 3.5 adventure that was released, and it's pretty brutal because you're constantly getting ambushed by hobgoblins and various other things. And so every time that they do this, they have spellcasters with them. They throw fireball as the first thing. Fireball, all the mounts are dead, and you're on your ass in the dirt, scorched, maybe not dead, but your horses didn't survive. Even when they roll a saving throw and they succeed, they're still dead. and you think, well, the solution is to make all of the mounts indestructible, or make all of the mounts take them out of the narrative. Like there's so many different things that I've heard people say. And I don't think there's a reasonable solution to that. What I will suggest is a couple of things that I've come across over the years that you could consider. Okay? Yes, they can leave them back at camp, and the campsite is safe. Yep. So you leave. So leaving mounts. Now that requires the players to do this, though. That's the problem. If the players are doing this, leaving the mounts in safe place. Yeah, you can do that, but not every place has got a safe place. Yep, you know that. I know that. Not every place is going to be safe. There is not always a place to leave them that they will be all right. So that's not always a solution. Making them indestructible is frustrating because the players aren't indestructible. Make mounts indestructible. Okay. Seems like a solution, but it really doesn't feel like a solution. It feels like another problem. Because if the players realize that their mounts are indestructible, they're going to take them into battle. So you create a new problem for yourself. The other one is you taking the mounts out of the narrative. Out of narrative. So given there's a bad situation occurring, a danger of some kind, as long as the players aren't on the mounts, narratively, you know, they might run away for a little while, but they'll come back. They don't get killed. They don't get targeted. They don't get attacked. Whatever the threat is, never really hurts them. And it seems like it's a doable thing, but it's not always going to work. So you have to have a whole lot of tools to deal with the mounts, so that it's not a problem. So yeah, there's another thing that you can do, which really only works for high level play, Thomas, and that is you can give them all unicorns. Do you know why I've said unicorns, don't you? Because unicorns are uncatchable. You can't catch the unicorn. You probably couldn't kill the unicorn because it will just teleport away. It can always avoid danger. That's the nature of the unicorn. The problem is that unicorns also heal, right? Not only do they heal, so if the players decide to use the unicorns to heal you, unless you're playing at high level, it's not really a solution. But literally making the mounts that they're on unicorns, the uncatchable, unkillable creature that hardly anybody ever sees. But it doesn't work unless you're high level. So everybody gets a unicorn. You might be thinking, are you kidding me? And I'll tell you this now. It's happened in my games. We have literally done something like this. It can work. It really can. But it doesn't work unless you're high enough level. If you're too low a level, it will not work. It's just unfortunate that that's the case. So, yeah. Everybody has a unicorn. There's a unicorn. What's the other thing that I've seen people talk about that they've used? Yeah, mundane mounts are always going to still be the problem. You're right. Because unless you're giving them a specialized mount, it doesn't work, right? This is one of the reasons why they created that spell, Find Steed, because you don't have to worry about the magical steed being destroyed. You just cast the spell again and you get the steed back. But not everybody has Find Steed. Do you know what we really need is we need a spell to solve this problem for you, Thomas. And I think this is one of those spells that dungeon masters would would find more appealing, even though it's highly powerful, and that is create horse herd. Create horse herd. So every time your mounts get wiped out, you cast a spell and there's another herd of horses that are already trained with saddles and bridles and all the rest, and you just jump on them and away you go again. New spell. Create horse herd. Dear. Now, I'm not even suggesting that you do this, really, okay? New spell, create horse herd. But you could do it that way if you really wanted to. I know you're not going to like the idea at all, but I'm going to put it forward. Your problem is just never been an issue that has been able to be solved significantly. I've never seen anybody find a solution that works in every circumstance to deal with mundane mounts dying. Okay? And you know, if they've got enough money, they go and they buy more mounts. But I think the problem is, I know in the Red Hand of Doom, we had spent so much money on mounts each time, and we eventually were down to just buying a donkey. Ride a donkey, not a horse. The riding horse was not that expensive, but the donkey was even cheaper. Otherwise, we would just, you know, every time we had a fight, horses are all dead again. And then we would collect up the meat and eat that because we didn't have to go hunting now. And it was already cooked. Horse meat was very tasty. But yeah, I don't think there's anything you can really do. Yeah, I know. I felt guilty for causing the death of so many. In the end, what we wound up doing is we decided we would just walk. We're just going to walk. We won't do that. Dear. What have you got here in terms of suggestions, people? I watched your cliff skill challenge recently. How the hell does a horse accompany them through that? They probably don't. That's the thing, is you would have to leave horses behind. You couldn't do it. You couldn't climb a mountain with a horse. Yeah. Maybe a goat. A goat could do it if they were riding on goats. Goats are really good at dealing with a mountain. Do you know what I mean? Goats can get over a mountain. Maybe riding around on really overlarge goats is your better option than a horse. Yeah, ride over large mountain goats. Ah, dear. Dear. I think just the whistle at the top and the horse comes from the side stage. Yeah, exactly. Make it a running gag. Lehman's Tiny Stable. Yeah, you could have Lehman's Tiny Stable. Because Lehman Tiny Hut will not hold all the horses, right? You need Lehman's Tiny Stable. I actually think that's quite funny, and maybe that's a doable thing. Like if they leave the horses, they cast Lehman's Tiny Stable. New spell. Lehman's Stable, or Lehman's Tiny Stable. Here you go. Why not? You could do that. Wouldn't be the end of the world. Would it be something you provide straight away? Maybe you wait until you killed a few horses first. You know, if you get the body count up enough, then maybe it's worthwhile doing it. Problem creatures, yeah, so dragon breath is going to be a problem for most mounts, particularly if you get ambushed. Yep. Yeah, suspension of reality and belief and disbelief. I think this is the easiest way to get past the mounts die again. Cheap magic item. Brush the steed master, brush the mount, air dismisses or summons as per find steed spell. I suppose you could. Use your horse pocket. Oh my god. Use your horse pocket, an extra dimensional space in your pocket for sticking your horse when you're finished. Well, maybe you need to have a horse token. A horse token. Horse token. That creates a horse for 8 hours. and then just transforms back into the token when you're finished. So if it gets destroyed or killed, there's just a little token on the ground that you pick up that's indestructible. Horses have been saved in the creation here. Yeah. We want to save the horses, just like we want to save the trees and the plants and the whales and so forth. And the best way to do that is to include horse tokens in your game. So I think that's probably the gist of it, dude. Look, I totally get your problem. I totally understand it. I can assure you that everybody's always had to deal with this problem at some point, whether it's players or game masters. And it is just a hilarious issue that you really kind of have to approach different ways and just see what works for you and your players. You know what I mean? I think ultimately in the end you'll just assume that the horses never get hurt. But you never let them come into battle because the players will use them then. A bell that summons him. Oh, the Elder Ring. Has it got a bell that summons a horse? I suppose you could do that. Yeah, make a ring. Make a ring that summons a horse. Then, of course, that doesn't solve the problem that the horses get killed and then you got to get a new horse. Okay, do you have an adventure hub for your player characters between quests and missions? Yes, 33%. Good. Sometimes 27%. Okay. No, 22%. Just watching, 16% out of 18 votes. Interesting. Okay. I am done. I'm gonna pack up early today because tomorrow is a big day. I believe tomorrow we're dealing with another monster. I believe we are rebuilding one of the creatures for Dungeons and Dragons 5e, the Baylor, which is basically just a rip-off of the Balrog from Lord of the Rings. So we're going to do the Baylor. I'll do the stat block, try to get it together, and that'll be for tomorrow. As for our collection of adventure hubs, I will make that available on Patreon during the weekend when I get a chance to get to it, which is my Saturday, which is going to be a different day for the rest of you, but that's all cool. That's how it works. Hopefully, Thomas, that helped you. Yeah. My suggestion is use multiple techniques and tactics with your horses. And then when you're finally sick and tired of that, just give them a unicorn or give them a token of horse. Or a token of mount. It can turn into a donkey, a horse, or a riding horse or something like that. Maybe a camel. Could give them a camel. You know, they're probably not going to say, "I want to take my camel into battle." If you give them don't give them a token of elephant, okay? Because they're going to insist on taking the elephant into battle and squashing all the enemies. But you can probably get away with the other ones. Oh dear. It's a funny problem. It's entertaining. I always thought that the horse problem was just a cackle. But then again, that's just me. Anyway, I need to get going. And a huge thank you to everybody. Thank you for everybody who's been watching and listening. Thank you for taking part in that poll. Thank you to all of my patrons who support me on Patreon. I really do appreciate it. All the best with your games and writing your own adventures. You may well find that you can write your adventure, okay, in the same space of time as it would take for you to prepare a pre-made adventure. Isn't that a terrifying thought? Sometimes it's very true, sometimes it's not. But even so, yeah, consider it as a possibility. Maybe you can make your own stuff just really quick. And look, wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, or the night, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.